Right, are we good to go? If you give me a thumbs up, Tony, I'll make this thing a real reality. We're good to go. That's what's up. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the many corners of the world. Welcome to every single person that's joining us on this stream. This is the Blueprint series that is finally happening, the global webinar for artists in the film and TV industry, actors, actresses, writers, directors, producers, filmmakers, storytellers. This has been a dream, excuse me, and it's finally come together, and we are so proud that we've got takeoff. You know, we live in crazy times. The digital era is sometimes intimidating, but thank you to the digital gods. Thank you to the digital gods that we got takeoff. I would like to humbly appreciate the co-producers and co-founders of the Blueprint series, Mr. Samar Davis, the incredible Winsome Sinclair, for this vision, for this baby, and for actually realizing it in literally no time. And I would like to absolutely give a big thank you and a big shout out to our media partners, BET Africa, for allowing us to make this a big experience, for echoing our message and our voice throughout the many corners of our beautiful continent, Africa. I would also humbly like to appreciate and thank you, the last partner of this event, the Artist Corner TV, recently launched our YouTube channel and platform, which is 48 hours launched, and the three powers, the Blueprint series, BET Africa, and the Artist Corner TV, have made it their mission to bring the powers of the world together, to bring the great energies in the arts, film, and TV together so they can impart knowledge, empower the artist, educate the artist, rehabilitate the artist, inspire the artist, especially in my very biased corner, the African artist. What are we talking about today? What are we talking about today? It's very simple. We're talking about navigating Hollywood independently, globally, right? And I think the beautiful thing about this entire, session that we're about to go into is that we agreed as a team that Hollywood is not just a geographical destination, a location, but Hollywood is rather a feeling. Hollywood is rather a mood. It's a global mindset. It's a global approach to whatever it is that you're about as an actor, producer, director, what have you, right? My name is Tapelo Mukwena. Those of you who do not know, I'm a South African actor, storyteller, producer, content creator, international actor, and I am blessed to be moderating this for you today. We've got an amazing panel. We've got an amazing session that's going to take place now. We've got 3 sets of panelists. We've got group 1, group 2, and group 3, and each group has an amazing group of storytellers, people who have outlasted and outstood the test of time, individuals who are ahead of us in the game, some of who are young and brand new to the game, but people who show and display enthusiasm, especially for storytelling, especially for Black storytelling in a global sense. We have, our lucky BET competition winners, who I'm going to invite later on into the sessions, to simply, ask us a few questions here and there and speak to their favorite individuals. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, if you give me a thumbs up, we're going to get straight to it. Yeah? Okay, cool.
Yeah, let's do it.
I like it. I like it. We've got takeoff. So, not wasting time, if you want to catch this entire experience live, ladies and gentlemen, if you're already tuned in to our BET Africa Facebook page and streaming live, or if you're already tuned in to the Artist Corner TV on YouTube or Facebook, then we say thumbs up to you too. And tell your friends, tell everybody to join in on the conversation and see what we're talking about. Otherwise, we're going to get straight to it. In the first group, in the first set of panelists, we've got an amazing, amazing, amazing set to kick off this discussion. We've got none other than South African actor, producer, entrepreneur who's been in the entertainment industry for over 15 years, a brother who is South African that I've had the privilege to see and be around on many different productions. His body of work is greatly appreciated across the continent of Africa. He continues to thrive. He is the CEO of Ferguson Films. His name is none other than Mr. Show, as they call him, Mr. Shauna Ferguson. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for having me, man. Looking forward to this. Thank you for the beautiful intro. I should have recorded that, eh?
It's been recorded anyway.
It's recorded anyway.
I'm gonna send you. I'll send you the clip after this. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Show. Next up in this first group of panelists, we have a woman who is incredible. You know, when I saw these names, I started doing my research and Googling everybody just to really bond with who they are. But this following woman is a veteran casting director with 3 decades in the business. She has helped many careers come to life and see fruition in Hollywood specifically. We're talking about the likes of Taraji P. Henson, Terrence Howard, Halle Berry, Jennifer Lopez, Channing Tatum, Chris Tucker, Gabriel Union. Can I have some water, please? And just have a break. You know,
right here.
just a moment.
You're doing amazing.
There you go.
You're doing great.
I've got a glass now.
Okay. There you go.
A moment, ladies and gentlemen, for the incredible Miss Kim Hardin. How are you, my lady?
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Taps. I appreciate it.
Really, really, really great to have you in the room. It's absolutely exciting. You know, you are still, as much as I'm moderating, ladies and gentlemen, you are still seeing an actor speak to you. So I am just blown away just having a chat with this woman. Next up in the panelist, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great mind. The reason that we're sitting here today, the reason I'm moderating this and even interacting with you today is because one day in my life, I met a brother by the name of Samad Davis, an individual who, when I met him, you know, I underestimated the meeting and I undervalued who he was at the time. I think I was coming from a set. I was dead tired and I wanted to go home and see my son. And this energy was just around me. And the next day he called me and we hung out and I got to understand what's on his mind. I was with him in Atlanta last year, August, spending some time with him, you know, just, you know, traveling the spaces. But overall, an American-based entrepreneur, philanthropist, international film and TV financier, content creator, format creator. He's the guy and the producer behind Top Actor. He's a distributor. What doesn't he do? He's worked with Viacom, BET, Fox Africa, Netflix, DSTV, Mnet. An American brother that I really got to appreciate because of how he has a thorough understanding of Africa. His name, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Samad Davis. Welcome, champ.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Samad.
Welcome to the room, Samad.
Thank you.
Next, the last member of, in fact, the second to last panelist in this first group. Now, as a South African male actor, I grew up inspired a lot by what we saw coming from the Western community in terms of content. And the first time that I believed that the feeling that I had inside was valid and that I possibly stood a chance in this industry was when I started seeing Black faces on television. And if there was a show that really changed how Black people viewed Black people on screen in South Africa, maybe Africa, in fact, for a fact, Africa, it has to be the undisputed, undeniable cop drama series, New York Undercover, which starred the incredible Malik Yoba. And if he doesn't know this, I'm sure somebody, you know, is going to whisper it into his ear, but his roles on TV changed a lot of how we approached leading roles as Black males. You know, when he took on that role of JC on New York Undercover, he made me feel like I could run a corporation, a precinct, a production, and whatnot. You know, ladies and gents, I'm not going to say anymore. His list of credits is forever. He's an actor, producer, musician, educator, entrepreneur, amongst many, many other things. Please welcome to this very room, Mr. Malik Yoba. Thank you for coming.
Malik.
I'd just like to ask you to unmute yourself, Malik. You can just unmute yourself there, sir.
I'm muted.
There we go.
Hey, Malik. How you doing?
Afternoon. I don't.
Reliable voice.
What day is it today?
I know.
Friday. Thank God it's Friday.
I thought it was still Cinco de Mayo. My bad.
It's tomorrow, the next day.
I'll tell you what day it is. It's World Day today.
Yeah.
That's what it is. World Day today. We're connecting
everybody.
the different. That's right. Lastly, in our last member of this panel, and I'm gonna pronounce this correctly because Samad said Femi, so I'm gonna try and get it right and not mess it up. Next, we've got UK-based actor, a brother who has starred in a couple of projects, a few that I've happened to bump into along the way. Award-winning London-based actor, filmmaker who starred in a hit film, Kidulthood. In fact, I've just finished working on Bulletproof 3 with Noel Clarke, who I think created Kidulthood. So that was quite interesting. He starred in Anuva Hood. He starred in Taking Stock, Kelly Brook, so many great productions. He went to the School of Economics in London. An overall businessman who worked on commercials and all sorts of different productions with Sky TV. I'd like to welcome, I'm not going to say any more. It's like 2 pages of stuff that this man does. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome into the room, Mr. Femi Oyeniran.
Hello,
Welcome,
hello,
sir.
hello. Hello from London.
Hi,
From
Femi.
London.
What's
From
happening,
London
world? How are
town.
you? London,
Very good.
the place with the highest death rate from COVID in the Western Europe. Here we are. But I'm alive though, thank God.
Yes.
Yeah, we thank God and we send our prayers obviously to every single corner of the world. We are going through the toughest time, but here's the bright side at the end of the tunnel. We still have selfless individuals that can take time out of their very unstable lives right now and package content that can change our lives as artists in the digital era. So once again, you know, prayers to all the countries, but hopefully this does give us better sleep at the end of tonight and possibly change our lives. Let's get straight to it. I've got a couple of questions from the BET competition winners. So maybe I'm gonna kick off with those questions and get the first session started. First question. Maybe I'm gonna start off and ask the first question before we kick off. First question that I have is for my brother who has inspired a lot of what I do with my leading roles as a South African international actor. The confidence that I have walking onto sets is not, you know, the same as what walking onto set must have been for an average African actor 10 years ago. So Mr. Malik Yoba, sir, how have you, in this many years you've been in this industry, continued to keep a career, to continue to stay relevant, and continued to almost be the only one of your kind in this business? And I'm going to ask you again, sir, just to unmute yourself for that response.
Oh, okay.
Do we have you there, Malik?
Something happened to the screen. Did that
Yeah.
happen to anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
just
normal.
like it.
Okay.
Hello.
Right.
So,
Over to you, sir. About my question.
I just think it's the grace of God, bro. I mean, I think we all know if you're in a creative field and you don't have ownership of your IP, then you're always at the mercy of someone else deciding when you can participate in their vision. And so, thank you, Samad, for the last offer for a project, which we thought we were about to start, right?
No, we're going up. We're about to start in a couple weeks, so thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
In the nail salons in Georgia, got you. I'll meet you there. But no, honestly, you know, I think it's one of those things that you don't really realize you have a career until you look back.
Yeah.
Because in each moment, you know, like I said, if you're not working on creating your own content or opportunities, whatever they might be, then you're always waiting for an opportunity. And so I think it's a combination of just favor and grace, obviously hard work, good relationships, people that believe in you. It's always a wonderful thing when you get a phone call and someone says, hey, I'm offering you something. But, you know, even at this age, 52 years old, you know, I'm still asked to come in and audition for things. And sometimes you're asked to come and audition for things that the next day someone else might offer you just direct the exact same thing. And so the thing that has always driven me is a spirit of service and serving something bigger than myself. And it's not always directly connected to acting or the entertainment business, but just moving in the world with a spirit of how can I improve the life of other people? And I find that in my journey, that has been just part of the flow. And then the other thing is something my father always said, which is build your own generator. So when they turn off the power, you still have lights. That's what drives my entrepreneurial spirit. And so I'm always looking for opportunities, whether it's in production, whether it's in writing or directing or consulting or real estate development or anything else. So that's been my approach. And then specifically, you know, show up on time and know your lines and do what you're supposed to do and be respectful, you know?
Absolutely, as one should.
Yeah.
Got you. Thank you very much, Malik. Thank you very much, sir. That's very enlightening. I'm going to take a question from one of the BET competition winners, and this one is directed to Miss Kim Hardin. I'm going to find the question. There it is. And it is from all the way from Kenya. Welcome to the house, Kenya. Welcome to the room. Welcome to the room. Who do we have? Mr. Alex Kayo.
Thank you. Alex Kayo. Thank you from, it's around 8 p.m. in Kenya, so it's quite dark. But I'm enjoying.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. It means a lot that you could take this time, you know, to add value to your own journey as an artist. So over to you, Ms. Kim Hardin is all ears.
Kim Hardin, hi.
Hi.
When are we working together?
Are you with us, Alex?
Yes, I am. Anyway, my question to you is, I've been able to follow your interviews, stuff that you do, your workshops. I've been able to keenly follow everything that you do. And in one of your interviews with Courtney Taylor, you are very categorical. You said you can work with anyone from all over the world.
Yeah.
Which of course struck my interest because I'm part of that clause, all over the world. So I wanted to know what's the process like. Let's say I'm interested in working with you guys, and you guys are in America, and I live in Kenya.
Okay.
How can we make that possible? Let's say to audition and just, you know, position myself to be able to work with you guys.
To work more because you're on another continent, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I think for a lot of actors that do work out of the country, it is a little bit more challenging than being here in the United States and being up for projects and whatnot. So first and foremost, you have to be able to find out what projects are actually being done here and actually what the subject matter is, first and foremost. I think for foreigners, it's a little bit more, you have to be a little bit more diligent on finding the project and then finding the ones that you are right for. Just because a lot of projects are done here doesn't necessarily mean someone from another country is right, unless you have the characteristics that we're looking for and can absorb the accent and dialect that we're looking for that character. That's kind of the more competitive thing, I think, for a lot of actors that are outside the country, is perfecting the American dialect to be able to be considered for American roles.
Okay. Because just to finish up with my question, we follow Hollywood stuff, yeah? And of course, it's a bit hard for African Americans to even secure roles in the US. So I just wanted to also add, what are my chances as an African or a Kenyan to actually get these roles? Not just any role that I'm required to like pass and just brush the screen or something, but maybe something tangible, like a role, like a big role, something that will put me out there. What are my chances as an African?
Well, again, it's depending on how many projects are done within that type of genre, if that makes any sense to you. You know what I'm saying? You don't usually just hire actors just because you're a good actor. It has to fall within the content,
to fit.
what the subject matter is of the project. Does it make any sense?
You do make sense.
Okay. Yeah. So you have to kind of find out what the projects are, whether or not you're right for them, and where casting is taking place. A lot of times projects, especially for the African content, are done and cast out of London as well. So, you know, you just have to really kind of be a little bit more diligent and find out where the projects are going, and then try to see if you can get an opportunity to be considered.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you very much, Alex. I hope that really hit a spot. Yeah?
Sure.
Big up. The next question is for you, Mr. Davis. This one, oh no, sorry. I'm gonna hold that one back. That one is from, we'll take this one. This one is from Aisha Shaba, all the way from Nigeria. Is Aisha with us? Is she here?
She is.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
This one is a question that came from Aisha, and I believe
she's here.
This one is for Samad Davis.
Okay.
Yes.
So
hi, everyone. I hope everyone's okay. Good. All right. So this question was for Samad because
do we have
I
Aisha?
knew Samad.
Is she here?
She's
here.
I'm
here. Can you hear me?
She's here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We got you, Aisha. Okay, cool. We can hear you now.
Hi.
We can hear you now. Okay.
Hi,
So
everyone.
go ahead, Aisha. You can ask your question straight to Samad.
All right. So hi, everyone. So basically, this question, I wrote this question specifically for Mr. Samad because I knew when he came to Africa, he had a very big dream in order to merge Africa and Hollywood together. And I knew he struggled because, you know, coming from two different cultures, two different expectations, two different battles and, you know, different things. He had to confront so many things as a returnee. I'll call him a returnee because he's Black African as well. So for Samad Davis, what was the biggest challenge taking on Africa? What was your biggest challenge taking on Africa? Can you hear me?
Samad has his mute on.
I'm sorry. Hello, Aisha. Thank you for the question.
Samad, did you get that question?
I got the question. I'm a firm believer that sometimes in life you have to step back to move forward.
Okay.
And I look at my journey in Hollywood, in America, period, being in this business as an independent content creator. I stepped back. I left the industry and started doing other things in Africa. And then at some point I said, well, let me introduce my core background into the continent and be value added, right? So for years, people would think, hey, I'm crazy. What are you doing in Africa? What's the point? What are you doing? You know, and in America, they told us as people of color, our films and television, our content in general didn't do well overseas. And then the minute that you step foot overseas in Africa and different places, and you realize everyone goes to work the same way we do. Everyone is doing the same things, right? Everyone has family and work and careers and dreams and visions. And I realized that there's no difference. There's no difference. Why am I not producing content in Ghana or Nigeria or South Africa or Uganda? Why am I not working with the same people? You know, we've just been cut off, right? So it used to be laughed at, not laughed at in my face, but people thought I was crazy for running back and forth to Africa. And to this day, if I go through society in America, people see me, they say, what are you doing here? Aren't you back home in Africa? People think I live in Africa now, and I don't live here. I'm just visiting America. So it was challenging at first, but I think you have to always stick to your vision. You know, people might count you out or may not believe in you, but if you have a vision and you're willing to put the work in, then that's all that matters. And I look at this beautiful collage of people from around the world, right? And all over Africa and America. And this is what it's all about. This was the end game for me. The end game for me is to be able to work fluidly. And the purpose of this whole project right now, today, this Blueprint series, is to be able to say, hey, Winsome Sinclair or Kim Hardin's cast in this next project, hey, consider Shona Ferguson. Hey, consider Inina over here. Consider Tapello. Consider Connie. Consider Michelle. Consider Aisha Shaba, right? It should be no difference. Consider Malik Yoba, right? So we should be able to do stuff. Michael Lucker creates, he'll speak shortly, but a hell of a screenwriter. We should be able to put stuff together and work anywhere. It should not be us stuck in America with the Black African-American experience, or in South Africa with the South African experience, or in Nigeria with just the Nigerian experience. Why can't we tell our stories? I know mostly everybody on here, right? And I have different relationships with everybody, but you know, and it's no different. It's just, we're different people, different relationships, but we still get things done together. That's the vision. And that's why I look at this as an opportunity to unite the industry. Femi, we should be able to produce the next dope project in Nigeria and shoot part of it in South Africa and part of it in America and something in Ghana or Nigeria. Why not? So that's my overall vision. It was very difficult, but I believe in me. If no one else does, I believe in me, right? So I just executed the vision, and I continue to. But nothing works without great relationships. And I value my relationships because there's so many people I'm looking at right now. It's all relationship driven. So yes, I can say, hey, we accomplished a lot over time, but I can't do it without the great relationships that I have. Look at my brother, Atanda Wakani. Another great relationship. Black Panther. So I hope I answered your question. It's, you know, everything in life is difficult. Nothing is easy. I never had anything come easy. I don't expect easy. It's Absolutely. Just about believing what I come to do and having the right relationships, the right partnerships, and executing. That's it.
And just, you know, Samad, thank you very much for that. And I think just to add some more fire to that, you know, the beauty of what's happening now is the world has become so connected. There is no delay in information. There is no delay in how we communicate. The impact that happens on the Western community immediately and directly affects how I exist in the African continent. And I think one of the major things that I found to be a golden attribute about yourself was that you understood very early on that Africa is that one ingredient that's sitting in the kitchen, that one spice that nobody is using when they're cooking. And now everybody's gone, hold on a second, we've used all of these spices, but why is nobody pulling that spice? And now the seasoning feels just about right for the African artist, especially because that's who I represent, even though I do work on a global scale. And I appreciate that you see it in Africa, and you saw it a long time ago. And what we're trying to achieve with the Blueprint series today as well, for all you African artists watching, is we trying to unlock minds, we trying to empower your trade so you can navigate the global society, Hollywood, comfortably and with confidence and with talent. Okay, I'm gonna take one, maybe the last two questions, in fact, one from the BET winners, and I'm gonna close it off with one last question, and then maybe one last, just a few words from our panelists. You know, there's so many questions. I think the one thing we must just make peace with is the fact that we're not going to get all the questions in, but we're going to do our absolute best to make sure that we ask every single one of them. The next question that I have is from Eric Funani. Brother Eric Funani, and your question is for Mr. Shauna Ferguson. How are you doing, Eric?
Can someone's mute? Can someone has their TV on? Can they mute that background?
Yeah, can someone please mute the background for us? Somebody is.
What happens when you have a real-time video call?
Michelle, maybe you can mute your phone, mute your background. No. Oh, is that not Michelle?
All right, cool. We got that. Okay, we got clarity on that. So, yeah. So, Eric, if you are in the house, you can go ahead and ask your question, sir. Do we have Eric?
Is Eric in? Is Eric in? No.
Seems like Eric is not here.
Okay, I don't know. Eric, maybe you go to the next one then. I'm sorry. Connie is in. Well, Connie's on the next one.
We back on. Did we all get disconnected there?
No, we're here.
Okay.
Yeah.
My screen just went completely blank. So please bear with us. We are going to have a few technical issues in there, but we're going to try our best to keep it together. So, Mr. Shaw, I'm going to ask you this question. There's a question here for you, Mr. Ferguson, and that is, how do you select your good cast, and how do you as a producer and a business select the cast to help tell stories better as a producer? And most importantly, what are the most important things to look out for when you are, one of the important things to remember when you are raising money or raising finance for your projects?
Yeah, I think I'll take it back to, the top of the question, which is, when you start, before you think of the actor, you give birth to the character first on paper. And the process is always like that. You always create these characters and you put the show together, this movie together. And once you do that, in most cases, I mean, I'm fortunate enough that, I'm also an actor, so I know quite a lot of actors in the industry. But in most cases, the typical way is you create the characters. Once you created the character, then you start the casting process, which is a very, very long process, but you have to go through it to get the right actor. Because sometimes I could be thinking, oh, okay, I could play this role, and I audition for it, and then next thing the director feels like, no, I'm not gonna fit in, and they find somebody else. So we always have to go through the casting process, and that's us reaching out to agencies, or if we worked with the actors before, we call them directly, we put them on tape, and then we find the suitable actor for the role. And then sometimes, and it's happened with quite a few of our projects, is you create a character and you already have the actor in mind. You already create this character and you know, okay, this looks like so-and-so will fit in so nicely for this particular role. Again, it takes some time for any actor to get to that point. Not everyone is in a space where, people just think of them and they cast them for stuff. I mean, I've been in the industry for a while, but to this day, I might be a producer, but I still go for auditions. And people don't understand that. They go, but why do you audition if you own your own production? I said, no, it doesn't matter. I still want to do other things. So we still have to audition. Nobody's too old to audition. So I would say audition, audition, audition. And then you find the magic, you find the actor, and it works. And then to go to how do you raise funds? Our industry in South Africa is very different from some industries across the continent and overseas and stuff like that. And Samara and I have had long conversations about it. South African television industry is what's driving the industry mostly, but more than film. Yes, we have film, yes, we have television, and then we have theater, but TV is like the mainstream. TV, South African audiences are typical family viewing kind of audiences. So television drives is the bigger platform. Now the difficulty is that South Africa is, no, not the difficulty, let me go back to this. South Africa is also a broadcaster industry. So what that means is that most work, in fact, more than 99% of the content that's on television is commissioned content. There's a difference between commissioned content and licensed content. So if your show is commissioned, it means you have to pitch it to the broadcaster. And if they like it, then they commission the show, they give you money for the show, and then it ends up on air, which goes back to what Malik was saying in the beginning. It's the IP thing. When your show is commissioned, then you don't own the show, then the broadcaster, I guess I must say network, Samad, eh? The network owns the content. Yeah, the network owns the content. So that's another challenging aspect because you are dependent on the broadcaster to get the show on air. And then you can self-fund a show. You can raise funds and get sponsors on board to create content. And that way, that's how you get to own your content, and then you license it to broadcasters, which is a very difficult process. Yeah.
Got you. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Shaw. Kim, I've just been thinking about this a lot, especially during this time with the pandemic and looking at where the world is going with the digital era and how things have become so instant. What does that say for the role of a casting director? Do we have, are we still going to go over to a casting director's rooms to get our roles? Or are we moving into a space where the productions are directly going to reach us through self-tape, through video, from our homes to build their relationships? What happens to the casting director as we move forward with the future of television and film? And I'm going to ask you to unmute, please, Kim. Sorry,
that would
Kim,
help. You can hear me, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is definitely going to, we're going to feel a change overall, I think, in our industry because of this world crisis going on right now. I know a lot of casting directors already did cast from self-tape, but I like a little bit more hands-on. So I spent a lot of time with actors and worked with them through scenes. And I'm going to have to do that a lot differently now, I'm sure, for a minute. So we can't really start our job as a casting director until we kind of figure out with various productions how they're going to be able to move forward so that we know now how to construct your deal and how to now buy you and what all the ramifications that comes with that. So I will probably begin my next couple projects with self-tapes, and then hopefully, in a short amount of time, this will be lifted, and then I can maybe do a little bit more one-on-ones with people to get them a little bit more fine-tuned for whatever the role is. But it is going to make a drastic change, I think, in how we conduct our job from here on. Does that help? Did that answer your question? Everybody's on mute.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kim.
I heard that.
We just having.
Does anyone talk? Everyone,
Yeah,
I
can hear
see
you.
everyone. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you. I just think that the
Did
internet is probably
I
slow in some areas.
Right. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. It was amazing.
Good.
Okay. Okay, great.
Kim,
Yeah.
it says here your network bandwidth is low. I don't know what that means. I'm a tech savvy.
I don't
know what that means
either.
So that's why I said the Wi-Fi in certain areas will be affected because there's so many people on the platform. So we just have to be patient with it.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much for your patience, everybody. I think because of the different time zones and the different times, our Wi-Fi is really taking a strain, but we're gonna do our best to keep it moving. Everybody still there? Just show me a thumbs up if you're still there and we're still on the same page. We still got everybody connected. Okay, good. We got a thumbs up. All right, great stuff. So thank you so much for that, Kim. Very enlightening information indeed. We've also got Malcolm D. Lee in the house with us here in this very esteemed room. And for you as well, Malcolm. And welcome once again, and thank you for joining us on this in this room as we empower the artist. There's a question that came in, and that question is from Marcus Mabusela, who's one of our BET, our BET winners. And Malcolm, if you can go ahead and ask your question. I mean, Marcus, if you can go ahead and ask your question to Mr. Malcolm D. Lee.
Is Marcus, is he there? Michael John, wait a second.
Marcus, do we have you there?
Yes, he was in the room. 1 second.
Okay, let me just search for him. Marcus Mabusela. He's one of our BET winners, and he's got a question for Malcolm D. Lee. We got him. Do we have him, Samad? Yeah. Should I move on? Yeah. Maybe I can speak to Malcolm so long. Malcolm, sir, welcome. And I spoke of you earlier on, just introducing some of the works that you've done. I mean, you have completely, you've got a body of work that speaks volumes, from directing, all of the great projects, Best Man, projects that really change our lives. Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins, amongst many, many, many more. Now, Malcolm, for the only question I would like to ask you at this point is, can you give us a breakdown of your process as a writer, director, when you are developing your concepts and your scripts, especially your comedy films? What process do you take when approaching those concepts?
Is Malcolm on?
I'm on. I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we've got Malcolm.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, welcome, sir.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. What's the process? Every process is different. With Roscoe Jenkins, it was the idea was to create a family reunion and use comedic actors, and some. I think Kings of Comedy had come out, and that inspired me to write a family reunion movie, and the idea actually was about a comedian who uses family in his act to kind of like spread his comedy, and but he was estranged from his own family. But once Martin came aboard, he didn't like the idea. He thought it was too on the nose for him as a comedian. So he changed that. So you're constantly changing things to accommodate your financier, sometimes your actors, and the process is writing process is a very lonely one, particularly when you're writing features. It's not it's hard. I'm actually, rewriting something right now, and it's incredibly difficult. Particularly during this time. This is not really my writing space. I have an office for that, but it's incredibly difficult. But I guess I start with character. I start with the kind of like overall broad story I want to tell. And I'm not a fast writer. It takes a while for ideas of mine to incubate, and then I put ideas to paper, and literally to paper, not just on a computer, but literally like pen to paper, like lots of
use pen? Like, oh wow,
lots of chicken
wow.
scratch, yeah, and one of these, and so it's I'd love to be able to just write it right on the computer, but it doesn't always work that way. My writing pen works much faster than my brain to writing on paper works way faster than typing it, and you can't just do it. Exterior, grassy meadow day, and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot. You have to write it out and do the pre-work and the pre-writing. So a lot of that, it's just a long process of trying to build a structure, is what all screenplays are built upon, is a structure, and you want to make sure that you get that structure solid, and then you can fill in the blanks with character and intention and setting and whatnot.
Absolutely. And then Michael, when it comes to African Americans, filmmakers in Hollywood, it was widely believed for a very long time that an African American lead would not do well outside of U.S. territory, let alone U.S. territory, and that theory obviously has since been disproved. But what, in your opinion, do you think would make African content more palatable to the US market? What is it that Africa can contribute to the way stories have been told in top of the food chain in the Western community?
As I tell any filmmaker, whether you're trying to appeal to an international audience or a smaller community, you have to write a story from your own unique perspective. There's lots of stories out there, but there's the kinds of stories. There's not a ton. A lot of stories are just reworkings of Shakespeare. Like Romeo and Juliet, or Hamlet, or Macbeth, or King Lear. You know what I mean? And then their accounts are not just Shakespeare, but you rework them in a way that is your cultural specificity. I mean, when it came to the movies that I wanted to make, I wasn't seeing myself as an African American, educated, upwardly mobile, aspirational Black man being represented on screen. It was a false representation, that I saw, and I was like, that's not who I am. That's not who the people that I went to school with. And I am more than sure there are images of the entire African continent embodied with 50 some odd countries that are like, oh, it's Africa, and they're misrepresented across the world, right? And it's like, so a person from Kenya has a Kenyan experience, has their own Kenyan experience. A person from Nigeria has their own experience in Nigeria. What are their, and depending on economic strata and depending on the kind of story they want to tell. If it's a genre story, if it's a crime drama, or if it's a love story, that you tell that from your unique perspective, from your brain, and get it out there. I think that if you build it, they will come. People were not seeing themselves, same like I wasn't, when I wrote Best Man. And they took to it. They said, okay, like I want to, that looks like how I see myself. And I think it's vital that we all, put product out there, how we see ourselves, not how other people see us.
Thank you so much for that, Malcolm. And I think that rings very true for the African, especially South African film and TV space. We are getting used to the idea of watching ourselves on screen, seeing ourselves as those iconic leading characters and heroes. And by virtue of that, we are starting to relate, and we are starting to find our own appearances more palatable on screen and even enjoyable and part of our appetite, which is brilliant. Thank you so much, Malcolm. I appreciate that, sir. Femi, I'm going to try and close this off, the first segment, and I'm going to ask you a few questions. Now, you do a lot of things. You're an actor, you're a producer. You've just, you made a documentary about fatherhood, which featured a lot of great names, some of them Spike Lee. There's so much that you do. You kind of remind me of myself in this industry. I'm an actor, but my fingers are everywhere. But this is where I get to unleash most of what I create and some of my own ideas. What are you busy with now? And what is the journey for Femi? Where is all of this ultimately growing to? You've built a great business around your art and your offering.
I think ultimately, I started out in the industry as an actor. I as you said, I starred in Noel Clarke's film Kid Altered, and that was the foundation, and I've been able to build from there. In between all of that, I went to university, I studied law, and those skills that I attained from my law degree have really helped me to go into production. And because I got to a point where I realized I wasn't getting as much work as I would have wanted to get. And so ultimately what I wanted to do was I wanted to start creating my own content, because I felt like that meant I didn't have to depend on someone else I didn't need permission to create if I made my own content.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, what that has led to is for me to build a business that creates content. So, I've got a couple of films on Netflix at the moment globally, called The Intent and The Intent 2, which are crime thrillers. My company's developing a film with Idris Elba's production company, Green Door, and then we are also developing a film with a major studio. We've got lots of different projects ongoing. So ultimately for me, my day-to-day is running my business, is creating content, is looking for opportunities to be entrepreneurial. But then I feel like, when the opportunities for castings come up, then I go for them, because and I stay fresh on that front, because I work with my coach every week, no matter what. So no matter where I am in the world, I make sure that I'm working with my acting coach weekly, so that, I'm always ready when that opportunity arises. However, if it doesn't, I wake up every day and I get out there and I hustle in terms of creating content, writing content, producing content, identifying new work. And that's what I spend the core of my time doing. And then everything else sort of falls into place. But as soon as the lockdowns finish, I'm hoping to make my first film in Nigeria. And that's gonna be huge for me, because that's where I was born. I'm Nigerian, and I've lived in England for over 22 years, 23 years. And so, but I go back and forth to Nigeria a lot more so in recent years. And I'm hoping to make my first film in Nigeria. I've got a film that we're developing in France. We've got a film that we're making in the States, hopefully next year. We've got a film that we're shooting in Thailand. I feel like as Black filmmakers, we have to be Pan-Africanist in our approach to filmmaking. We have to, and when I say Pan-Africanist, I mean, we need to, everyone's got their story about, they say our content doesn't work. Every Black person has got their version of that story. You're in South Africa, you've got that story. Malcolm's got that story from the US. So why don't we connect with each other and cut out the people that say that our content doesn't resonate? And ultimately that's what I'm trying to do, and really originating really localized content in lots of different territories and connecting with like-minded people and audiences globally.
That's beautiful, bro. And that makes a lot of sense. The world is undeniably super connected right now, and the amount of content, the untapped territories and stories in our own continent is unfathomable. Right. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank every single panelist that we've had on this first group and this first session. In closing, I'm going to ask my brother Malik Yoba. I'm going to ask my brother, Mr. Shaw, my man, Mr. Shauna Ferguson, to just close on this segment. And from you, Mr. Shaw, if you could speak to a producer who has ideas, who wants to create and make these ideas come to life and become tangible, what would your piece of advice be in this time? You know, talking to a dreamer, what should they be doing with their ideas right now? The content that they write with a pen like Malcolm D. Lee on a notepad, what should they do with those ideas? And Mr. Yoba, from you, sir, building a career is not the easiest thing. I'm sure Kim has met a lot of great individuals that have sort of fizzled and disappeared into the air. But I'm sure at the same time, you've met a lot of great talents that have stood the test of time. How does one create a brand out of themselves that is almost irreplaceable, that offers a particular signature of performance or artistry? How does one create that? And do actors really design their path, or is their path determined by the scripts that are put in front of their faces? I'll start with you, Malik.
Back to what I said earlier. I mean, you know, it's like the golden rule: who has the goal makes the rules. So, I can, in my journey, I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of doing the type of work that I think really honors my range. And so, you know, like I have a one-man show that I wrote, which I've written in and around other projects that took me 15 years to finally mount, where I play 20 different characters in it. It's about 10 of my original songs. As a producer of it, I did it at the Apollo a couple of times last year, with visions of it becoming, you know, like a Netflix special, or I want to stream it. I've been talking to Netflix and Quibi and some other places. You know, there are films that I've worked on to write, you know, to get produced that have not seen the light of day. I think, you know, if you are just an actor, it's a very passive profession. You have to, you know, I used to teach a class called The Working Actor, and the thesis of the class is, at the end of the day, you are the CEO of You Incorporated. And so, like most people on here, you have to be a multi-hyphenate, whether it's your true passion or you can develop into a passion, but you have to think like a writer, as a producer, as a director, as a marketer. You have to know about the finance side, how to raise money, all of those things. And so, you know, I'm sure for other actors, it might be different. And I think that ultimately the work that I've done, that the world has seen in the minds of some people, that has created the brand of Malik Yoba. But I think there's always a huge gap between what you know you're capable of and what other people see you as. Like, for instance, comedies. I haven't done a ton of comedies, but I'm funny as fuck. And a lot of times people say, well, you know, we need, you know, a comedian for this. And I'm like, but I feel like it's my responsibility. If you haven't seen my comedic chops, then it's my responsibility. And that's certainly something I try to incorporate, even in the drama, as much as I can, to always find the humor in things, to show a little bit of that. But I also think that a lot of times in our business, people just don't have vision. And if they don't see it, they don't believe it's possible, you know? And so that's always the challenge. But I'm glad we're able to do this, because this is unprecedented. It's like not much you want to thank COVID for, but
absolutely.
this is certainly one of them, right?
I'll take it.
You know,
I'll take it.
Yeah. But so that's it. And I too have been, you know, I did one Nollywood film so far, and I've been talking to some other folks about working across the diaspora as well. So this is truly wonderful to see so many like-minded individuals and people that I know. Hey, Kim, I see Mike. A bunch of folks. So yeah, it's beautiful, man. That's my take.
If you don't mind, I remember when I first met you at the we worked on Attica's project in Brooklyn.
The monologue that we used to do. Yeah.
And then we met again at Bad Dad Rehab premiere.
Yep.
We talked about Africa. You said, "Hey, I'm interested in doing something over there."
Yep. So you know, right just before this as well, you know, there's a couple of folks that I've been talking to in Nigeria, you know, to produce some content with them. And, came up with some stories that we're, developing. So, let's go.
Love that. Love that very much, man. Thank you so much, Malik. Appreciate that.
You're a great host, by the way.
I appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, doing a great job. Great job.
Excellent job.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, everybody. Mr. Shaw, you want to? Sorry, Samad, go ahead. You got?
No. Go ahead. Shona was next. I just had something to ask.
Yeah.
Maybe I threw them out.
All right, Mr. Shaw. You want to close this one off for us, my sir?
Yeah. For me, it's passion. I'm looking at the panel that we have right now, and I have nothing but massive respect for everybody. But the thing is, people don't get it. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, you're gonna fail. That's just how it is. You need to have passion. You need to have drive. You need to work at it on and on and on. I've seen a lot of producers pitch one show or one film to a broadcaster, a network, whatever, and it doesn't get picked up, and they get frustrated and they quit. It's because the nature of the industry, because we see everything is so visual, everything is in the screen, either the big screen or the small screen. We sometimes feel like it's instant. We sometimes feel like the success is instant. You see an actor on screen and you want to be famous and you want to get into the industry for the wrong reasons. And for me, when you do that, you're not gonna be able to sustain it. You need to be passionate about it, and you need to keep on knocking on those doors. There was one year where I went to 113 auditions in 1 year. I didn't get one role.
Wow.
In 1 year, 113.
Where did they make you?
Sorry?
Where do they make you? That's resilience.
Yeah.
That's resilience, man. 113 auditions. And when I tell the story, people don't believe it. And I said, I still had to knock on doors to this day. It doesn't mean that now I've got many productions going on, I've made it. No, if I'm not passionate about it, if I don't keep on knocking on those doors, then it's all gonna fizzle out. And you need to work at it. Femi said something. He sees an acting coach every week, and I'm like, what?
I'm blown away by that.
I was blown away. I was like, he sees an acting coach every week, and this is a busy man with other things, but he still finds time to. I mean, come on. I mean, it's like, these are the things that we have to work at. We need to watch other people, what they're doing. You need to watch a lot of content, read a lot of books, watch what other continents are doing in terms of content. And to be honest with you, for me, it's a very humbling experience to be a part of this platform, because, every day is a learning experience for me. So keep at it, keep knocking on doors, keep pushing, keep writing, do a lot of self-tapes, practice, ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Ask questions, listen, and keep pushing. That's it.
Thank you so much. And this is exactly why we have this digital takeover and this inferno going on right now, because we gotta watch and listen to our environment and look and watch those who are doing really well closely and take a little lesson from their book. Thank you very much, Mr. Shona Ferguson, Ms. Kim Hardin, Mr. Samad Davis, Mr. Malik Yoba, Mr. Femi Oyeniran, and of course, the iconic Malcolm D. Lee. I do not know how to thank you. I've got like papers and papers of questions, but I cannot possibly ask you everything, So thank you.
You mind if I
say it again,
Malcolm, before we let Malcolm go? Just one. Do you mind?
Oh, Malcolm? Yes. Malcolm? Oh, he's back. Okay, I thought he left. I thought Malcolm left.
I know
so Malcolm is still here.
No, well, I do have to go, but what's up?
Well, I'm gonna Samad. I'm gonna let you ask Malcolm a question. I'm gonna throw it right back at you because Malcolm. I mean, we all know Malcolm, but there's that one question that that you should ask him that can help us learn a thing or two about the man's journey.
Thank you. Well, I had the pleasure of hosting Malcolm in South Africa. He came in and was a episode director for Top Actor, which was a great experience. So my question to you is, have you thought of developing anything for Africa specifically? Anything that you have already that you might think to shoot in Africa, or something specific that you can develop specifically for Africa?
Well,
what's around that?
You know, not specifically, you know, for Africa, but I've certainly entertained and have been developing things, screenplays and shows that would take place on the continent. You know, I think we have not really seen, to my knowledge, at least on a you know, kind of global and, you know, from an American movies, African Americans experience on the continent and actually, you know, experiencing, you know, what it is to be there, and the cultural clashes that could potentially be there, and the synergy. And I think that's be a great opportunity to do that, see African Americans in Africa. So I am developing things in that vein, and want to do, and I want to do more interaction. And you're right, it was a great experience. My first and only time to the continent was with you, Samad, and it was fantastic. And I want to do it a lot more. I really enjoyed, you know, working with the people there, and I want to do more, for sure.
Thank you.
All right, everybody have a great weekend, great Friday. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very
Bye.
much, Malcolm.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. All right, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is our first segment with its own technical teething problems, and we're going to cruise right on to the second segment. Thank you very much to our panelists in the first session. If you want to stick around, please do, and stay for the rest of the session. If you have to go, we do understand. Thank you for imparting knowledge. You are changing our lives, and you best believe we're going to share this entire experience through our different social media pages or different platforms. So the end product will be used as an entire package. That's going to be really beautiful.